On September 25, 1978, PSA Flight 182, a Boeing 727 airplane, was approaching Lindbergh Field in San Diego with a crew of 7 and 128 passengers. The aircraft was on the second leg of a regularly scheduled flight that originated in Sacramento, with an intermediate stop in Los Angeles. The weather was clear, with a visibility of 10 miles. 2 minutes and 44 seconds prior to the location shown on the animation, Flight 182 received clearance for a visual approach to runway 27 at Lindbergh Field. Implicit in that clearance was the requirement for the pilots to see and avoid other traffic, and, when alerted to traffic, to confirm the traffic was in sight. Shortly after receiving approach clearance, Flight 182 was informed that there would be traffic, a Cessna 172, making a low approach to runway 9. The Cessna had departed Montgomery Field, with 2 persons aboard on a training flight. Prior to the accident, the Cessna pilot had been practicing approaches at Lindbergh Field. The Cessna then flew outbound from Lindbergh Field to the northeast on a VFR clearance. The Cessna clearance also had the implicit requirement to see and avoid other traffic. As the animation starts, Flight 182 had just informed air traffic control that the traffic was in sight. At this point, the Cessna is straight ahead on a northeast-bound heading. After receiving the in-sight notification from Flight 182, the controller reiterated the VFR clearance to the Cessna 172 and instructed him to maintain a heading of 70 degrees at or below 3,500 feet. 1 minute and 30 seconds before the accident, air traffic control again alerted Flight 182 to traffic, supplying the identity and its location, 3 miles straight ahead at 1,700 feet. Flight 182 responded that the traffic was in sight. The controller then directed that they maintain visual separation and contact Lindbergh Tower on another frequency. The controller also alerted the Cessna that there was traffic, PSA 182, its location, and that the traffic had him in sight. The Cessna confirmed the transmission, but did not confirm sighting Flight 182. At this point, Flight 182 was descending and on a heading of approximately 100 degrees, and the Cessna would have appeared to be flying lower, at a heading that would cross the Flight 182 flight path almost immediately. Flight 182 contacted Lindbergh Tower, and at 1 minute 10 seconds before the accident, the tower controller once again notified Flight 182 that there was traffic, a Cessna, 1 mile straight ahead. Based on radar tracking, the Cessna was on a 40 to 50 degree heading when directed to change heading to 70 degrees. After the Cessna was alerted that Flight 182 was in the area, it began to change heading, flying an erratic course for several seconds. The Cessna then established itself on a course that was exactly in line with Flight 182. 1 minute before the accident, Flight 182 informed the controller that they had lost sight of the Cessna, but believed it had passed to their right. The controller interpreted this exchange to mean that Flight 182 was clear of the Cessna. Throughout the remainder of the flight, the crew of Flight 182 continued to look for and discuss the Cessna. During this time, the Cessna would have been below and slightly ahead of Flight 182 on the same heading. Although theoretically visible, it would have been a small target amongst the ground clutter, would appear stationary, and in an area where they may not have expected it to be based on previous sightings. 19 seconds before the accident, an automatic conflict warning began at the San Diego Approach Control Facility. The warning was advisory for the approach controllers since both pilots were VFR and responsible to see and avoid other traffic. Flight 182 had already switched frequencies to Lindbergh Tower, and therefore the approach controller was unable to provide a traffic warning. However, at approximately the time of impact, approach control was able to radio a traffic warning to the Cessna. The 2 aircraft collided at 9:01. The Cessna hit the right wing of Flight 182, exploded, and disintegrated. Shortly after impact, Flight 182 informed air traffic control that they were going down. Flight 182, with its right wing on fire, rolled right and pitched down, descending at a 50-degree angle into a residential neighborhood approximately 3 miles northeast of Lindbergh Field. All aboard both airplanes, as well as 7 persons on the ground, were killed in the crash.